I'm so happy today to have Sam Adams here. Sam, thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Um, yeah, and Kristen, thanks for co-hosting
Thanks for
today.
asking, Andy.
Sorry, my dog's kicking us off here in the wide shot, but thanks so much for coming. I've had Vadim on a couple times. I feel like this county race is so important coming up in November, and yeah, I was also going to shout you out for kind of a connection that you probably don't know, but I interned on Portlandia years ago, and I know you were famously on the show as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Um,
I had a good experience on the set. How about you?
I can't say it was probably as good as you, but I was an
Okay.
unpaid intern. I
For
was,
most of the show, I was an unpaid actor
oh,
because
there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't get paid as an elected official.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I got paid the last couple of years after I was out of office.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was gonna say to me, I don't know, maybe some people disagree with me, but that whole era for Portland was just a really great memory for me, and it
hmm
seemed like a maybe a peak to a lot of folks.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
It was fun to, as a Portlander, it was fun to see you on there. It's just
yeah,
fun to see your mayor on TV.
yeah,
Playing the mayor's assistant.
It's
It was good fun to do.
yeah.
cool.
So yeah, tell me about kind of your district, what
Sure.
folks are saying out there, what's important to them, why you're
So
running, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'm running in Commission District number 2, and the boundaries are 148th on the east to the tip of the St. John's Peninsula, Willamette River, and then the Columbia River and I-84, basically. So the district is 1/4 of the entire county, so it's about a little over the third of the city of Portland.
Wow.
Um, its unique features include the airport,
Mm.
Mm.
includes the largest section of the industrial area for the city along the Willamette and the Columbia Rivers. So its big trade is a big concern, and then also services, warehousing,
Mm.
trade-related services are also, and then manufacturing.
I actually didn't even think about that. Yeah, the airport and all the cargo and stuff, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
What does the county have to do with that? Because I actually don't even know how that works.
so the county itself doesn't have much to do with that. In terms of sort of the attributes of the district, those are some of the key attributes of the district. Makes it
Yeah.
unique from the other parts of the city, if you would.
And so if you're commissioner,
You,
what kinds of things are you paying attention to in that regard, if any?
with those, it's workforce training. So the county and the city
Okay.
share responsibility for making sure that our workforce is skilled up to get the best jobs that are being thrown off of that, and folks that are constantly being reskilled need to be reskilled. And that is only with the exponential changes that are facing the workforce with AI alone,
Hmm.
Yeah.
much less automation and a whole bunch of other things. Um, it's
What are
a
you seeing when you say reskilled? What are you envisioning is going to be the kind of thing that would be within your purview on the county?
So the county itself shares this responsibility with the city in terms
Mm-hmm.
of workforce training, and its key partner is Portland Community College, Mount Hood
Hmm.
Community College, and then also the other universities that have a presence in the
Hmm.
city of Portland. So University of Oregon's new campus, the old Concordia University campus, is in this district. University of Portland is in this district. PCC and Mount Hood both have portions of the district as well. But right now, we're at the beginning of this big unknown changes ahead of us in
Yeah.
terms of AI. A couple of new reports out just in the last couple of weeks show the kind of work that's going to be really infringed upon
Hmm.
by the automation of AI. And then the work itself is so like Gunderson used to build barges in the district, but they just recently announced they were closing that down, sadly.
Jeez, I didn't know that.
But Daimler, Freightliner,
Yeah.
major manufacturing in the district, more and more of that kind of basic manufacturing or high-tech manufacturing is going to be automated.
Hmm.
And the automation, when you add it to AI, really begins to chip out and cut out a lot of jobs that right now we're using people's brains and
Yeah.
hands. So we have to figure out what the replacements for that are. And it's early days, but it's going to happen. And so I'm excited at rolling up my sleeves and digging into that issue and finding out how we can have a unique proposition to the world, to the nation, to the region in terms of our workforce. It clearly is going to require people to get a lot more skilled up in terms of automation meets AI on the manufacturing floor, for
Yeah, on
example.
all sorts of floors, it feels like. I feel like
It's
I
true.
can't walk out of a grocery store in the city, and maybe this is everywhere, without just doing all the checkout myself. I mean, on any given day, like I've noticed it at New Seasons on Woodstock,
Yeah,
certainly at the Safeway there,
I do.
virtually any grocery store in the city. Most of the aisles are closed, and then all the automated ones are open.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad you're bringing it up. I actually haven't heard from a lot of candidates talking about it, and it is hugely important to the job market, obviously. And
It is.
and
And
automation was, hard to deal with even before AI. So now
Yeah.
it's
imagine
yeah.
what it's going to look like
Mhm.
after or as we go into it. And it's going to require being really agile and fleet-footed because it hasn't been totally figured out yet. And
Not really at all, right? I mean,
not in the ways we're talking about it today.
right.
So there's an organization called Work Systems Inc., so WSI, and I've been on the board there before, so I'm familiar with it when I was a member of the city council, and would ask to be on the board again. And part of its key responsibilities is to look out for reskilling dislocated workers. So exactly the kind of workers we're talking about that will
Directly
no longer
impacted.
have a job because of AI and automation. How do we skill them up and work with the city and other entities to grow the kinds of employers
Yeah.
that will use those skills? And so that kind of partnership I think, bring to it steadily because of my time on their board and then also representing the city on their board. Now, I would hopefully be appointed to represent the county on that. And then WSI also works with the chronically unemployed. And
Hmm.
one of the largest cohorts at risk are folks that are 50 years and older.
I'm sure that's right.
And I would imagine, much harder for those folks to reskill in this kind of new way that we're talking about.
And to get jobs. I
Yeah.
mean, even if they do reskill, there's an
Bias, you
a
mentioned?
bias,
Yeah.
whether unconscious or conscious, that they'd rather hire younger folks
Mhm.
than older folks. So it's a huge shadow challenge that we're facing and other cities are facing. And I'm excited. Long had an interest in this issue. I grew up in the Oregon coast in Newport when the fishing was overfished and they closed the fishing for commercial fishermen. And my dad was a commercial fisherman. So,
You saw that impact. Yeah.
like a lot of families, we went bankrupt and,
Wow. I'm
you
so
know,
sorry.
yeah. So I learned at an early age what it means to have the breadwinner lose an important part
Yes.
of your economic stability and having to figure out what he was going to do next.
Yeah.
So we're going through that again for different reasons, but we're going through that right now.
What did
It
he
also
do? What did your dad end up doing?
He ended up going back, getting education, a master's, and he had a baccalaureate. What am I saying?
Bachelor's, yeah.
Bachelor's of Arts,
Yeah.
and ended up getting a master's and becoming a teacher, and
Wow.
then he became
Talk about retraining. Yeah.
yeah. But he had to do it himself.
Right.
Go
Right.
into
There were
go
no
into debt.
programs for
Yeah,
him,
go into
probably.
debt. Moved from Newport to Eugene to do that. My mom was a high school dropout, so she got her GED, then she got her bachelor's, and then she went on to get a master's in architecture as well. But
Wow. That's
so I came
amazing.
into
When
government.
you were a kid growing up, your
Yeah,
parents were
so
doing all this?
yeah, and
That's amazing.
I got fascinated with government because I saw how hard, unnecessarily difficult it was for my parents to not get the kinds of basic supports that have since been more commonplace
Yeah.
from government. And I saw how hard it was for them to do that and raise kids and everything else. So yeah, this workforce training, I come at it, my interest authentically, because I grew up with seeing the challenges of two adults and an entire, spectrum of families all over the coast and in Newport that just
Absolutely.
had to figure out what the hell to do next. And a lot of people didn't make it. A lot of people didn't make it, and I don't want to see that happen
Wasn't
again.
a lot of timber
And then
fallout going on too, and
after the fish, right on the end of the fish was the timber.
yeah.
Yeah, so all this upheaval in small town Oregon, financial upheaval took place inside of families, and it was really hard.
And is that something I was going to say? Yeah, do you hear a lot in your district about those concerns?
What I hear is no, I don't hear a lot about those concerns because you don't, unless you're absolute nerd.
It's like on the horizon, yeah.
Yeah, you don't hear about it until it's really impacting folks like at that moment because they're busy living their lives. And that's part of what the responsibility, I think, of local government is to look out for
Foresight.
folks and to
Yeah.
see ahead. So it doesn't just whap us,
Right.
slap us right in the face. And when I mean I mean our families and individuals trying to get by. And this cohort of older Portlanders, older Americans, right now is the fastest growing cohort within people experiencing homelessness as well. So that's tied together. That's tied together. And we have to find work for folks that
Yes.
are older.
Yeah. I know you talk a lot about, what's it called, a point in time thing, but you always say you think it's like you see a lot of white older men on the
Yeah.
streets.
I
And
mean, it's hard to know,
yeah,
given
the
their
data.
condition
Yeah.
and the lack
Well,
of
so many
reliable
people are
data, but
hitting, legitimate retirement age without
right.
pensions, with not having paid very much into Social Security. And they are at such high risk of outdoor homelessness.
Outdoor homelessness.
Yeah, because they don't have enough to pay. They might have enough for groceries, but they don't have enough for rent.
Sure, but don't they generally have a community or a network? I mean, I have a homeless sister. My dad was homeless. Like
It's just the
that
volume.
was severe mental illness and drug addiction in my case, but they had burned through their networks, including me.
So that would be part of it, especially if they're facing maladies that, are going to cause their networks
It
to
seems
cut them
ripe
off.
for that to
But
me.
even without that, we're seeing folks that have worked at jobs that don't have pensions and paid paltry.
Who are pitching a tent on the street?
It's the fastest growing cohort within outdoor houseless are people over the age of 60, 65.
I believe that. But do we know that there are not comorbidities going on here of mental illness or
Oh,
substance use?
if they didn't start out that way, they're certainly at
I
so
agree.
much higher risk. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it was young men, but it just makes me think of like ISIS or something. I mean, if you have some kind of enormous fallout in regard to employment and meaning in your life and what you do every day, it's going to be replaced by something.
yeah,
Usually
or
negative
all of
if you
that is,
can't.
as you're intimating, or drug addiction, mental health issues cause that as well.
Yes,
Goes.
that's
So
right.
you're right. It still is local government are going to deal, for whatever reason, local government has
Yeah,
to
we've got to keep these
figure out a
people
way.
Yeah.
employed.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, that's why for me the huge reason the county is so important. I'm having you and Vadim on and stuff
Yeah.
is that, and we were just talking about this before we recorded, but people get so confused as to what the city's responsibility are in the county, and the county is mental health and addiction services, right? Are we
And homelessness.
and homelessness, right?
Yeah. The city's role in homelessness is just to sort of time, place, and manner of camping, managing the time and the place and the manner in which you can camp.
And then the joint office check, of
And
course.
then that should all be working together. I mean, right now,
Agreed.
part of what I'm running on is you can see it on the front page of my website, multcoforsam.com. Thanks for letting me have a pitch.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
sure.
should plug it.
Yeah, and I'll put
is when you take the amount of money that's being budgeted locally by Home Forward, which is an organization a lot of people don't know
I
about.
believe that's the federal
Exactly.
FHA thing.
You know that,
Yeah.
but I wish more people did.
I work sort of in housing, so I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got Home Forward, you got the city of Portland, and you've got Multnomah County. You take those budgets for homelessness, a little bit of money for affordable housing, mental illness, and drug addiction. And right now, those three budgets are $700 million. $700 million. And it's all being spent in a patchwork sort of
Right.
hopscotch way. And so my approach to this is, because we have so many missing pieces from the whole system, is all that money goes on for, in shorthand, all the money goes on the table, and we start picking through it, judge that against the continuum of care that should exist, that right now doesn't exist. And you prioritize. It's looking for waste, it's looking for overlap, it's looking for gaps, but it's also just reprioritizing what's most important. If you have the, right now, if you want to get off the street and you've got, let's say, a substance abuse disorder,
Oh, forget it.
it's the waiting list is years long. To get into housing
If
is
you want
5.
to, and that's if you want to.
Exactly.
That's if your brain is not hijacked by fentanyl or something.
And we should support those folks when they
Yes,
want to.
everybody. Yeah.
It's a 5 to 10 year waiting list to get into permanent housing. So these waiting lists,
Right.
we talk about, you all talk about this on, I've been, I'm sure. So you have the deflection center, and then you have the sobering center, and then you need to these other sort of follow on recovery services, so that at the end of the process, someone is going to have a better chance of
Yes.
staying in recovery. That we
Wraparound
can,
services, right?
yeah, we can find those resources out of that $700 million.
Oh, we certainly can. But I mean, another concern I have is not only is it all just wishing out the door, but as Sharon Myron and Julia Brim Edwards have talked about, for certainly Sharon Myron for some time, and you must have heard this and seen it, there is no understanding of where it's going or whether it's making a dent. What are the metrics?
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
In a word, it's a mess. There's no plan.
No, there's not.
There's, and
We
there's
don't know
no,
what
there's
works and
no
what
plan.
doesn't.
And as you both know, the budget is the funded blueprint.
Right.
And
it is a blueprint, according to Sharon. It's a cut. She called it a cut and paste job.
I believe her.
Size of
And
a
when
phone
they
book.
get it, when Sharon and Julia get it the night before,
Exactly.
$4 billion.
That's exactly right.
It just goes, it is such a low, to your point, it is such a low quality budget as a document that should be
It's an
guiding,
understatement.
should be guiding the city. It
Yes.
is, the whole thing is a mess.
How can you fix that, though? Because my understanding from Commissioners Myron and Brim Edwards is that the chair sets the agenda and decides on things like the budget. And so
Yeah.
how do you
See, I've been around a few.
Yes, you have. And so you must have some ideas here
So
about how to make inroads.
When I heard from Commissioner Myron in a conversation that she had an agenda item she wanted to bring on to
Right.
the county board, and it was over the response times for ambulances. It was a resolution that ended up what they ended up,
Right.
months
It took
before.
a long time. Yeah.
It ended up being exactly, her proposal ended up being
Yeah.
embraced by the chair and moved forward the pilot program. There was no, well, anyway, I heard from her and then from Julia about this situation where she did it. She went through the process to get something on the board agenda and was told no by the chair. See, I've been around long enough to know that under state law, that's not legal.
Right. And I've heard, from
And they've reported
that
on
big,
it.
yeah,
But what do we do about it? I
So-
mean, we can't.
Oh yeah, there's plenty you can do. 3 votes trumps. Well, first off,
Yeah.
you can sue, and you can go to
I
the
don't know if
ballot.
anybody is going to do that.
Oh no, there are people are waiting to see what happens in the election.
Right. Sure.
So if there aren't 3 votes, so 3 votes is the easiest way to clean up that stuff. The
Can
chair
you
has to
really,
follow
though?
the rule of law. Absolutely.
Okay. So you're saying if there's a majority of people who want to see a resolution move forward on the board, they can make that happen
Better
with or
than
without
that.
the chair.
Exactly. Better than that.
How do they do that? Oh yeah, please continue.
They put a resolution on that says the chair can't write administrative rules that contradict
Okay.
board rules. And the board rules right now are very, very clear. They
Does
say
that change the charter though?
it's not in the charter, it just takes
Oh,
3 votes.
okay.
The charter says that the chair has no veto power.
Right.
It's very clear. The board rules that were approved unanimously by everybody says that any elected official can place any single elected official can place an item on the
I
agenda.
know that's the
So
illegal part, right?
that's
Right.
the illegal part where she says a veto, it's a virtual veto, says no. So people are just waiting. A vote of 3 cancels out an administrative rule. A vote of 3. There's no question.
Cancels it out. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the majority rules. Majority rules. If there aren't vote of 3 to do that, then you can sue. If you can also go to the ballot box, you can also gather signature petitions.
It's expensive and difficult.
It is. So
Yeah.
that's why these, as you have both pointed out, why these races are so important. It's really our local democracy. It's, you know, we
Yes.
don't want to continue the sort of decisions are made in the back room, and they already
Right.
have 3 votes by the time they get up. You know, you don't just want things to move forward for discussion only when they have 3 votes. You want to change the underlying process so it follows the law. Then on the budget, with 3 votes, 3 people can say, this is going to be our budget process. The chair has only the right to submit a proposed budget,
Right. Okay.
not cram it down board members' throats.
Mhm.
I've helped mayors, and as mayor myself, do how many budgets? Like 16
Must have been at
mayoral
least.
proposed budgets. And they're only proposed. And in the city, that then goes on when the mayor proposes the budget in the city, then there are 2 months of deliberations by the city council over that proposal. And there are
Okay.
changes that happen, and there's lots of consultation before, unlike
So
at the
very different from the county.
very different from the county. Whereas we all know from hearing from Sharon and Julia, and I'm so glad those commissioners are there,
Oh my
is
gosh, I know.
they got that $4 billion budget the night before the next day
That's
when
right.
they were asked to vote on it, as we've discussed.
According to Sharon, this is de rigueur. According to Sharon, this has been going on since Chair Kafori.
And I guess it's one of the benefits of having been around a while to know what's not only legal and illegal,
But they need that majority, right? Which
but
is why they need
also
somebody like you.
what allows for good governments, because the mayor needs scrutiny.
Yes.
And that's
right.
that balance. The chair needs scrutiny. So if there isn't 3, to just sort of last thing I'll tell you on this, if there aren't 3 votes, then I'll lead efforts on a lawsuit, and I'll lead efforts on initiative
you.
signature
Wow, yeah.
petition.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
yeah.
Because it's, as you both have, I can tell both of you know, the average person is like, this is all very confusing, because it is.
Right.
But it's core.
Right.
The dysfunction emanates from this.
Nobody understands this. Nobody understands how critical the county is.
Yeah.
Everybody just points to the, well, you know this because you
Yeah.
were mayor.
I was just telling
The
them,
mayor
yeah.
gets the credit or the blame, just like the president for the economy.
Yeah.
You know, even though a lot of that's the Fed or Congress or whatever, that's who you are slotted into this as if you're mayor, and then it's all on Wheeler and Portland's homelessness, and nobody's looking at the county.
Well, there are lots of other things I would pursue to get the county better grounded. I mean,
What else?
well, like
I love all this.
I'm going to neighborhood association meetings and neighborhood business district meetings around the district, and just to reintroduce myself and why I'm running. And I'll ask them, so talk to me about your organization's relationship with the county. And they're like,
We don't have one.
we've never had anyone visit us from the county.
Yeah, I have a
So
business
it's
downtown.
partly why
Nobody from the county.
so if you're going to have this very insular one-person rule and it's not grounded, then on top of that, it's not grounded. It's not getting feedback from folks that live and work and own businesses
I think that's
on
the
the
point.
ground, part of me has always wondered, like, how can they be making some of these decisions that they're making? Like, they're smart people.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is it's so insular for the reasons we just talked about. But the other part of it is there's no feedback mechanism
Mm-hmm.
That's
built
right.
in.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to change that.
Thank you.
I want staff, and I'm going to do office hours in my district. I'm going to go to these meetings,
Thank you.
but I
Wow.
also want staff assigned to do the care and feeding as well, not only of neighborhoods in Portland, but the other neighborhoods in the other cities as well.
That would
It's
be
gonna
amazing.
make, as I think you would agree, it's gonna make the county work better.
Yes. And I think honestly, it's brave of you to do, because it would be much easier to just slide on there and stay quiet and, vote reasonably, hopefully with a majority, but still just remain kind of quiet and unaccountable and not transparent, and just kind of move about your business and throw everything onto the mayor or city council, as people would continue to do. And so I think it's kind of amazing that you're running for something that, and you're saying, I want to be held accountable. I want you to hold me
Absolutely.
accountable. All
And
of us.
and I want to involve, my decisions are, just by being challenged, my proposals over the years have so much improved
Huh. Yeah.
by the dialogue with the community, and the pushback, and the cheerleading, all
Yeah.
makes for better decision making,
For sure.
win or lose, with rare exception. And that happening among peers, and and whether I'm a staff person or whether I was an elected, like, that dialogue is really, really important, and for it to happen in public, because then the public gets to comment as well. And because it's on the agenda, they know ahead of time to show up for
Right.
this meeting, not that meeting.
Right.
And if the meetings are actually scheduled not just during the middle of the day, then you get more diversity of who can show up as well. And if
Okay.
an organization if a government has the tradition of town halls on really high profile, hot button issues, like, that's my style,
I think that's great. Yeah.
So would you
then
change the meeting times at county?
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
I
God
would,
bless you, Sam Adams.
a
This is
couple of meetings,
amazing.
I mean, my goal would be to have at least two meetings in every district. So there are 4 districts, 2 meetings a year in every
That
district,
would be great.
where you're doing the regular business of the county, but you also focus then on 1/4 of the land mass, and the people and the businesses and the workers that are in that 1/4 of the land mass. And you get to have this deep dive conversation about, how's it going? What can we
Right.
do to help? What
And
do you
so
need
you
from
would, I
us?
take it, publicize this before you came to a district and say,
Absolutely.
hey, we want to hear from you. Because now, I mean, it's easy to do. You go on the website and you, what is it? Thursdays, 9 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about it a lot too, but actually, I really like your idea, because just a person
Well,
who
it's not
works all the time,
advertised. Yeah.
I can't
No,
do
working people
those.
can't
Yeah.
go. It's
So,
just like city council.
yeah.
It's just like it. Working people can't attend.
Yeah.
And so
And
then it fills up, well, it fills up with, you know,
Yeah. Well, as you get regulars, and there's I don't
people who
know.
don't
It's
represent,
it's a very
in general, the
slim
city or the county.
profile
Yeah.
of people that.
It's a slim profile. And I think, in my opinion, leads to a strange echo chamber of ideas.
echo chamber is the right word.
But that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to
Thank
have
you.
that in your plan,
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
I've
that
never
was
heard
my
this.
plan.
It's amazing.
sounds great.
Is this
Yeah.
all on your website? It
This
should
piece
be.
will be up on my website.
I love it.
It's been out in my emails, but it'll be up on my
Breaking
website.
news. Yeah,
It'll be
I
up
love
in
it.
my website. Next week is public safety, and after that, it's going to be this nerdy governance stuff.
Because I was just thinking, I don't know if I've ever seen. Does the city or the county do town halls like that? Like, that would just be fantastic.
It depends on who's the elected official.
Yeah.
I did, and the more, like, my rule of thumb is, the more the higher conflict of an issue, the more more likely to do town
Wow.
halls.
I love that. Yeah.
And
That's amazing.
whether it's, I mean, I can name the issues, and democracy benefits from that. But again, a part of it is self-interest. I can do a better job. I usually have ideas. I'm not shy. I'm not a subtle guy. I've got ideas, and that usually I consider that sort of the opening. I want the opening gambit. I want to hear everybody else's ideas,
Yeah.
and I want to hear. Portlanders are amazing. When I've talked over the years to other like mayors and elected officials from around the country, when you treat Portlanders like the thinking humans that they are, you always get a percentage, but the vast majority of people are like, yeah, I
They're
want
reasonable. Yeah, I
reasonable.
agree.
And
The
if
majority are
if
reasonable.
you start your conversations with, this is issue X, what would you like to know about it?
Mm.
Yeah.
And you go in and you get all kinds of great like suppositions and theories. I mean, throw them all out there in questions. And then you go off and in a very transparent way, you do that research and you come back and you have this conversation, this dialogue. And I've had meetings that were like 200 people.
Wow.
I don't know why more people don't do it. I learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more interesting way to do the job. People really appreciate it. Whether you end up agreeing or disagreeing with an individual, they really tend to appreciate it. There's always the outliers, but more importantly, it makes for better, more resilient results because it's already been through a grinder,
Yeah.
as it were. It needs to go
It's
through
like
that
public
grinder.
comment.
Yeah, these things need to go through the grinder. Like when we
That's
did
right.
the 5 resolutions in November of 2022, that was on homelessness. That included a phased in ban on camping, the larger official campsites that goes with the phased in ban on camping, included more workforce development opportunities for folks experiencing houselessness. The city set its first ever housing production goal of 20,000 units in 10 years. And then a diversion program for folks that were experiencing mental health issues or substance abuse disorder. We spent 18 months conversing with people on that, and then we had 3 weeks.
This is when you were at Mayor Wheeler's office.
Exactly. So then we introduced the drafts, took public comment, and then we had 2 long meetings about them. We didn't try to hide the ball at all.
No, you didn't. I was at a couple of those. Yeah, no, you didn't.
And so
I thought it was well publicized.
made for better work.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
It was during the day. I mean, I think
That one was during the day.
you would have gotten a better. I like your ideas because I don't know about
couldn't
better.
convince him to do it at night.
Well, sure. I mean, nobody wants to show up to work at night.
Staff
But
busy,
I absolutely understand your point of view about a pool of ideas because I feel that way. I mean, I'm a lawyer and I feel that way about my work. I do litigation and I just can't. I don't want to work in a silo. I want to work with other people, and I want to work with other people who maybe don't like my ideas and have better ones. I mean, that will only benefit me.
Yeah, or I
And
might
the
get my
client.
mind changed.
That's right. And
Either
it's
way.
so much,
And it's more
actually so much
interesting.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
Because
right.
you learn so many more
It's
things.
so
That's
boring
why
to work
I think
by
Andy and I
yourself.
like to do stuff like this because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my mind
It's
changed all the time.
so boring to work by yourself or in a little silo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll never develop ideas that way, and you're not going to serve the people you want to serve. Like for me, it would be clients. For you, it's your constituents. You're not going to serve people that way
That's right.
because you can't hear them.
That's right.
Yeah, and it just seems
that's
like
so
a
smart. I have not heard that from anybody.
like a scale and a type of engagement that's been absent from the county. The county
Heck,
certainly,
yes.
yeah. So yeah,
And
it's
it's
just
been
I mean, a
been
lot of them
absent
don't
from
even
the
show up to
city as
work.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
used
them
to
don't
be
show up
much
to work.
more of an expectation at the city as well.
Really? So during your tenure,
During my tenure, but before my tenure as well.
who else implemented things like this?
Well, Katz, because I was her chief of staff, but also Randy Leonard, who when he was on the council, Dan Saltzman, definitely Amanda Fritz, um, Nick Fish,
Yeah.
and before them, it was much more of an expectation on both sides of the
Mm-hmm.
public that might not be able to make it, but I want my neighbors and other people like me to be able to go to a listening session, a town hall. And then on the government side is we don't just march in there after, with 2 weeks of work on something, pull it out of our pocket and like make major decisions. That's not as robust. It needs, I think with this, I think one of the upsides of this new city council, I hope, is because they're representing districts, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
be much more,
Everybody likes that.
yeah,
It
they're going
seems
to be,
popular.
I hope it reignites that. And at the
Yeah.
county
You already
really
have
needs,
districts, but none of us know
Yeah.
yeah, they really,
that, and none
I
of us
have
know
to
which one we're
explain to
in.
people
And
what a commissioner district is, and
that's right.
every
Isn't it
single
weird?
one of them. I'm in the second city
Oh, District 2.
council district is what they'll tell me. And I'm like, no, you're
Oh, right.
also
Yeah. There's
in
a
the
second thing.
second county district, and the boundaries are slightly different, but there's been a second county district
Mhm.
since 1984.
Right. And yeah, I'm sure people just look at you blankly.
Yeah.
They do. They're like,
Well,
what?
I was doing this like survey for people that live in Portland. That I would just ask them like I was trying to find out what city district they're in just to see if they
Right.
know.
What
And,
they
and a
do.
lot of times they would say Multnomah, and I'm just like, okay. But
Yeah.
that's like what I was telling you before we recorded about how frustrating it is to try to get people engaged with this, all this new government stuff, the city stuff. But
Well,
I
I'm
think
You're
glad you're
working
doing
very
it.
hard
I think a
at
lot
it.
of it's just overload for people, and
It is overload.
Especially right now,
Yeah.
Oh
because
my gosh.
all the issues are so there's so much exponential change going on, and then you add
Yes.
the new government. It's going to be
So
some
many people.
time of sorting out for a while.
But I agree with you. Like, hopefully that's, I try to tell city candidates that, like, and I think I see that at the events I go to, that, like, just be prepared if you get into office to take a lot of questions in person, because I feel like
Yeah.
that's what not only you should do, but it's the best way for the public to just talk directly to them. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I was curious, like, do you feel like that's a big differentiator in contrast to like your opponent? I haven't heard many of these type of ideas, so it's cool to hear.
Well,
Yeah,
she
I have
doesn't
not heard this from anybody.
I haven't heard it from anybody.
I haven't heard anybody at the city level, the county. I love all this. I haven't
Yeah.
heard any of this stuff
Yeah.
from anybody.
I think the big differentiation between Shannon Singleton, my opponent, and myself are around policy. So she and I have very different views of how to deal with and manage homelessness, and how to deal with and manage public safety. And I can get into those if you want. But in terms of, you should expect someone like me who's been inside government for so long and constantly just the way I'm wired, constantly looking to improve it. Government cannot stand still, because nothing else in the world is standing still.
Yeah, it has to be dynamic.
Exactly. And because she's been in the county sort of universe for so long, her nonprofit was significantly funded by the county.
Was that the joint
nonprofit.
office?
That was Join.
Yeah.
Before that,
Okay.
and then she went to work for the state, for the governor, for a period of time, and then she went to work for the joint office. And so her experience within local government is limited to her time in the joint office. And
Yeah.
when the different kinds of leadership positions I've held at the city always required me to work hand in glove with the county. So I have
Right.
an experience of the county, coming over from the city, what worked well, what didn't work well, what applies, what doesn't apply to the county. I can at least get them to work better together. And they share the responsibilities for human health, and
Yeah.
they share the responsibilities for community safety. So
Right.
That's something I ask about a lot. Yeah, repairing that city county connection, and it just seemed like, with your experience, it just would be tremendously helpful, because
it's been a difference of and it gets back to 3 votes. It really
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
There was definitely personality conflicts but it really was a difference in approach. And the county was leaning into housing first.
Right.
Yeah.
And the city was
Still
city
are.
government was experiencing the massive increase in on the ground people on the ground experiencing outdoor homelessness.
Literally on the streets.
And the county wasn't paying attention to what's the waiting time
Right.
for folks to get from the streets into housing. And when I got back to working with Mayor Ted Wheeler, one of the first things I asked for was from the county, what's the waiting list to get into housing?
It's a great
Because
question.
we're seeing this like massive increase in people homeless and experiencing homelessness outside, and they didn't have it. So,
Right.
and they weren't really interested in learning what the waiting time was. So,
Even though that's their alleged priority is housing.
the irony of it. So we worked with Home Forward. It's a good organization.
Can you talk about that for a minute? Because I'm actually not familiar with it, and my guess is
Yeah.
listeners, well, people watching might not be.
So Home Forward is about 600 more employees, has a budget, a very large budget of about 250 million, 300 million. It deals a lot with housing issues. So it was created in the 80s by a state legislature to sort of be the place in Multnomah County where federal dollars go for
Okay.
housing related issues and other issues, and decide how that money would be spent. So it's the local urban renewal agency that deals a lot with the federal dollars.
Yeah.
on
I
this
I only
issue.
know it because, like I said, I do like compliance training for housing, but I know it as down payment assistance, first time home buyers, all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff.
Probably military
Federal money
and
that
yeah.
helps for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the federal money goes there, and state money tends to go to the county, or they spend it on their own. The city has its own money when it comes to homelessness. It doesn't get a lot of federal money, if any, and it doesn't get state money for its work on
Jeez,
homelessness.
really?
Yeah, so that's
There's
why
no federal or state money going to the
city.
is there, but
Mm-mm.
federal and state money is going to the county?
Correct.
Okay.
State,
Right.
mostly
Because the
state,
county
mostly
deals with homelessness,
most
I
of the
guess.
federal money goes to Home Forward, but it's a little bit of dribble. Most of the state money goes to the county, and then the county has its own money as well.
So Eric Zimmerman, who's running for city council, who's currently Julia Brim Edwards' chief of staff on the county, told me that he came on my show, which is audio only. It's much less interesting and technically advanced than this, but he said that and I haven't published it yet, but I'm working on like editing it. But what he said is one of the reasons he thinks that we can't incorporate rehabilitation and detox services into some of this just housing pool of money is reimbursement by Medicaid, Medicare.
But yes,
And he said
and
there's not
he's
reimbursement
right.
for it.
He's right, but there are also local governments, as I understand it, that have gotten a lot more creative.
Okay. Because he
Then-
said we have the money. We could just do it on our own.
Right. So he's right, of course. The question is, are we maximizing our creativity?
Well, I think
So-
we know the answer is no to that.
Right. And the city, Portland Street response, for example, in the city.
Yeah.
If the Fire Bureau is working on if it reconstitutes itself in a particular way, would it be reimbursable? Would some of its activities be reimbursable by
great.
Medicaid? And it takes, when you're dealing with the bureaucracy of the federal government, it takes some
Right.
effort to do that, but it's an effort worth taking.
Totally.
And I know that the county has been working on that as well for certain things,
Okay.
but
Well, that would be good.
has found it, as Eric points out, has found it very difficult. And this is where if you're spending the $700 million in a systematic way, as opposed to a hodgepodge way. I'm not talking about consolidating things, because that's a logistical nightmare.
You're talking about a plan, like actually having a
plan?
plan.
I know it is like a very crystallized like thing that I've
It's
heard.
never,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
impressive.
We
Yeah,
don't hear this currently.
yeah.
So
It
I think it
is
comes from your
it
experience,
is
coming from
though.
the
coming
county.
up with it's coming up with a plan for the $700 million. It's on mine is also, we have one care account for everyone who's in the system, whereas right now
There's
the
like 10
auditor,
or something.
yeah, just to
Yeah,
get all the benefits you're entitled to, it can be up to 4 to 10
yeah.
different
Oh my
applications.
And
God.
that's what you mean when you say I'm not
No.
talking about consolidation. You're talking about efficiency with that,
Efficiency and unified efforts.
right?
Consolidation is a tripwire that brings in all kinds of other
Sure.
things that could take years. So I don't want anyone out there to think I'm talking about consolidation. Unified efforts, client centered, so that if Sam is been picked up by the police for outdoor drug using and goes to the deflection center, care account is already there or established,
Wow.
because Sam might be at the Providence
Right.
ER 2 weeks from now, depending on where the journey in
Sam
his,
probably will be.
yeah,
We know this.
takes.
Yeah.
So that's got to happen, and that's more likely to happen when you have everyone responsible, a representation of everyone responsible for that $700 million around the table, and they have 90 days to come up, make a system out of it. And they have 90 days to make a system out of it like that. And then some of the things will be developmental, but those developmental things, like getting everyone from 10 to 4 to one account, one care account that follows
Yeah.
them, it's got to happen. The amount of waste just on
Oh
that
my
human
gosh.
being. You both know this, it sounds like. The other thing is it's an annual report card of this unified effort. We hear
Okay.
we hear these press releases, and the city does
About
this
how great they're doing. Yes.
about how great
How
this is doing
wonderful.
and this and this. And that might be true from the city and the county,
It's
but
hard to know.
what's the unified outcome?
Yeah, we
And
don't have
mailed
publicized
to
outcomes.
every household, every business, every address in the county.
Who in your vision determines this outcome? Is it an auditor? Is it who does
So
it?
the report has got to be an independent, the
Yes.
annual
Right.
report has got to be independently produced. The outcomes is by this unified group.
Right.
And
So
then
they
this is what we're going to,
gather and publish data to the whoever's doing the independent report.
and I can imagine
That
that
would
the
be
first
wonderful.
couple of years are going to be rough.
I mean, can't we do,
But
Sharon
if you
talks about
put
a
one
dashboard.
person in charge, and this would use a lot of her dashboard.
Yeah.
This would utilize a lot of her dashboard. Absolutely. She did some great work there that was not picked up. It's really sad, but it doesn't have to die.
Love it.
But the key of this is you treat this like the emergency. You put one, we call them incident commanders, in charge of this whole effort. Sometimes they're matrix management, sometimes because it's a different government.
Kind of a czar of.
But if
Yeah.
the city says, and the county says, and Ford says that this is the homeless czar, we're all appointing the same person as the homeless czar, suddenly they have the power over the three organizations as it relates to homelessness to like make a system out of this. They'll want to have the right people around the table because no one is
Yes.
smart enough. But they have to relentlessly drive to make this hodgepodge scatterpoint of silos and gaps and misery into a system. And then,
Gosh, misery is the right word. Yeah.
and part of that developing, as you all know, that system is, what are we getting for our dollar? And what is our continuum of care?
Yeah. What are the outcomes?
You kind of almost just talked about that when you were saying having, I forget the name of the organization. You said at the deflection center.
The care
Or
Care accounts.
account.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sam gets a care account that follows him, and it can be HIPAA confidential.
the one account.
I mean, I guess
The
it
one
would have to
account,
be,
the
yeah.
police can add, we picked up Sam today. They can add to
That's
the
so
account.
great.
They don't get to see your confidential information, but the care providers at Providence ER do,
Right.
because they
So
qualify for
important.
that. So if it's a life or death, health, safety, mental health, very urgent issue, the right people will get access to your account. You got to be smarter than the addiction and the drugs. The system has to be smarter than the addiction and the drugs.
How do you know about all this? How do you seem to have
He's been doing it a
some,
long time.
I
yeah.
know, but
Well,
we
I
were
too
not
have,
plagued with fentanyl in the way obviously, that we are now, although we were when you were on Mayor Wheeler's staff. And so, how did you learn all these things that you seem to know about what does work?
I spent time every week with folks that are in homeless camps because we were sweeping them.
Right.
And I really, half a significant part of the success is having a ground floor, a really on the ground, below the ground
That's
floor,
exactly right.
sort of understanding or
Yeah.
misunderstanding of what's going on out there.
I don't see people, except with the exception of Sharon, who does street medicine. I just don't see these people
And
in
there's no reason they
tents.
couldn't.
And I don't see them and there are ways to do it. If they wanted to, they could go with
And you see, like,
a group of
if
people and
you've
do it.
had family members, I have too, you both see the humanity, like these are people. And then you
Of course
see
they
the
are.
challenges that they face to get to some healthful outcomes. And
Oh,
those
it's
two, to know those two things like Sharon does and others out there do, to know those two things are in a human being, and that there's somebody's relative, there's somebody's son and daughter and brother and sister. And the offer, the way that I summarize it is the offer that we're offering them is so bad, and that's us.
Mm.
That's bad on us.
yeah, we don't have anything to offer them. I mean, they
Our
if
offer
yeah.
is so, I wouldn't take it either. It's so
Yeah.
impossible.
I don't know what the offer
Yeah, well, and
is.
I was
We
Where would they
we
go
were
if they
talking
wanted to get off
about
there's
drugs?
no,
There's nowhere to
as
go.
we've said, there's like
They'd have to go across
4 to
county.
10 different offers that don't.
line up or whatever. Yeah. Well, I was learning about the deflection center about a week ago, and I didn't know. I just feel like that continuum is broken with that right now because it
Yes.
seems like from what I hear, if somebody wants to go there, it's a lot of, why am I spacing on the term for it?
I don't know.
Harm reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
peer support is what
and I
Eli
just feel
said.
like,
And
yeah,
that, yeah.
and it's also like 12 beds, but
Yeah, it's nothing.
I just feel like, yeah, if people want help, they should be able to have all that services there.
Oh my gosh, if you
to go.
want,
Yeah.
if you have some moment of clarity, they need it right away.
It's lightning in a bottle.
That's exactly right.
Somebody described it to me this week when I was meeting with them, and they help manage a veterans harm reduction center. And they're like, I was like, well, it's got to be on demand, exactly like you just said. And they said it's lightning in a bottle. It comes and goes.
It could
Right,
go in
right.
a
It's like
second.
an
And if you
emotion.
can't get
Yeah.
them there, that's right. If you can't get them there, the window's over. Here's the dealer. They're gone again.
And they end up getting lower,
Yes.
feeling lower,
dead.
or
They're dying. They are dying.
it's the other thing I would add to the what you were saying about the deflection center is and it's a tough conversation to have with the public, but it's I think an honest conversation. So we've got to recognize that until we get the $700 million being better spent, reprioritized, better spent, it isn't just about it's being spent bad. Some things have got to be more important to invest in than other things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is going to be really good, but I'm willing to go in there with experts and say, okay, we have $700 million. This much of it is waste. These are the gaps. Now we need to go back through and say, of 10 things that are in this funding source, which are the top 3? And the other stuff might be good, but it just might not be as important given, some of the high profile, urgent issues that we're facing now. But we've got to recognize that there's got to be some thoughtful triage going on here.
I was just thinking triage. Yeah.
That's right. A certain amount of the scantily available beds or provisions of service availabilities clearly need to go to some of those folks waiting in line that want to do with their stuff. Certain amount of it, and this is the part about deflection center and people using drugs in public, will need to go to that, because if you're using drugs in public, there's something to be said for that. But another category is the real dangerous people and the real destructive people
Yeah.
also need to be part of that triage, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If it
Yes.
all is people that are just using, this is the hard part to have a discussion with the
Yeah.
public about. If it's only people that are caught using drugs in public, you're going to use up all that space and the people waiting in line aren't going to get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not be mandatorily requiring treatment to the most dangerous people,
Mm.
if that
I
makes
think
sense.
that is, well, I don't know what will
Tough
happen underneath
conversations.
him, but under Mike Schmidt, and this is something that I think Kevin Barton, who's the DA of Washington County, is right about this criticism. Under Mike Schmidt, the most dangerous people are the only people getting drug treatment, getting any kind of diversion prior to the reform of Measure 110. In my opinion, those are people who should be kept away from the public, but that's a state issue and a whole other issue that the county has
So that is
some
true.
say in.
The problem we have, the added to the problem we have on that last piece, is the jail isn't
That's right.
completely open.
250 beds unused, an entire wing.
Yeah.
What can you do about that, Sam?
This gets back to Anthony, one of your earlier questions about what's the difference between me and my opponent,
Okay, yeah.
Shannon Singleton. I absolutely will dig into the $4 billion county budget, $4 billion annual
With a
county
BS.
budget, to look for opening up the rest of the jail. I mean, this jail was built 20, 30 years ago when Portland was much smaller.
You're talking about Iverness or the downtown?
Iverness.
Iverness, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not operating at full capacity. It needs to be staffed up and operated. That isn't the panacea, but it means fewer really dangerous people are being
Right.
Circulated and yeah.
circulated out the door. I mean, you just read in the paper almost every,
Right.
they were in the jail 4 times and got,
Mhm.
we used to call it matrix releasing, but now it's just, there's
Yeah.
recirculated.
That's what I've heard it called, matrixing.
Yeah. So she does not agree with refunding the jail. The
Mhm.
jail was cut back during COVID and they took the savings and haven't put it back.
And as our understanding is they've been cutting the budget in the jail every year for.
Yeah.
Totally wrong-headed, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
Totally wrong-headed. If we have to pay temporarily for surge for more public defenders so that we're not seeing cases dropped for lack of public
Right.
defenders, which is a state responsibility, but it's our community.
Thank you.
And we should pay for some of those surge, hire
Thank you.
part-time attorneys that are willing to feather some of this into their caseload. And then the last, of course, is we need more prosecutors in the DA's
Yes, we
office.
do.
Because the cases, as you know, get old and stale. And by the time they
If they're not
might come in,
dismissed. Yeah.
if they're not dismissed for whatever reason, then the individual can be reoffend, can
That's
reoffend,
right.
and or that just gets stale, and there isn't as much there. There are expirations
Yeah.
on these cases. So she does not agree with anything I just said.
Yeah.
And I'm not even exaggerating. I've
Right.
been in multiple
That's really scary.
joint appearances with her, and she's quoted in the Oregonian saying, "Absolutely not."
Yeah,
So
and it's
that's a big, and the most sacred duty of government is, to keep the peace and keep people safe.
Mhm. Yeah.
It also keeps, violent people safe. I mean, that they could be killed by others. They could be shot by police. They can be, it's not good for anybody.
No.
I was just thinking, I don't know. I'm kind of like blown away at all the stuff you're telling me today.
I am too. I know. He's one of the best kids.
I know
we've
you're.
had.
It's just super impressive.
But
But I was thinking-
blush.
It is. You're very unassuming. Do you know that? You're very you're very.
I'm just from a small town in Oregon.
I know. No, I know, and it's a real thing. Obviously.
Shout out to the Newport Aquarium, by the way. I don't know.
Yes.
You were just making me think like, and I also think about this when you were the mayor of like, it was kind of an era of transparency. I feel like for everywhere, even nationally, maybe. But
Yeah, that's a
There
good point.
was.
but I feel like that's kind of what you're channeling today, and I just feel like is that part
Bring
of your
people in on these conversations. Yeah, I mean, I some people think I talk with too much specificity,
Mm.
in a campaign setting. That's probably true. My proposals are about definitely focus on the how,
Mm-hmm.
because I put together something I would like to see candidates, which tend to talk about the what,
Yeah,
not the how.
that's why I like it because all I hear is platitudes, and you have details
Right.
and plans. And
Well, I work at it, and you should expect that from someone who has the background I have as well. So
yeah,
it's but the reason I'm running for the county seat is because it is the biggest
Thank you.
drag on our efforts to move forward.
yeah,
It's the
I
most
definitely feel
important
like
right
that.
now,
Yeah,
And it
and
my
is, and
opinion.
it internally, for the reasons we've talked about and more, deals with things I'm saying at the high governance level, with such a lack of, and this is where Sharon just got beat the heck out of because she wanted to dig into the how,
Right.
and she got absolutely no love for that until Julie Brim Edwards as a second
right.
got on to the board, and it was treated with hostility. It was treated with like she was a traitor,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
and
That's exactly right.
and vilified in so many different ways. And she's a how person, and I really respect her and value her. And I feel terrible at her treatment over all these years.
I know.
I don't know how. She deserves a bit of a rest, but I hope she won't.
Me too. I mean, if I were her, I would just, I know she likes Grace. I'd go move. I'd honestly just be like, to heck with all these people. And
Well, I hope
I
she'll
hope she
stick
doesn't, but
around.
that's what I'd be doing. She does need a vacation. She probably needs
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
window.
I was just gonna. I totally agree with you that seems like the biggest kind of hole in our community right now, and that's like you were saying the kind of the most effective way to fix all the problems we have is at the county, and so it just seems
All of
It's the
them.
biggest drag.
yeah.
It's the biggest drag right now.
I'll get into these goofy questions, but first, tell like how can people help you? Go to the
Yeah.
website and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
go to multcoforsam.com. It's lawn sign season, so even if if you don't have a lot of money, sign up to get a lawn sign in your front yard. These campaigns run on donations, so if you can make a donation of any size, if
And
you've
what is the limit? Remind us.
$568,
And there's no matching,
there's no
so every
match.
every
That's
dollar
it.
counts.
Yeah, it's a slog. And on my webpage, you can send in ideas or criticisms or questions or whatever. Please do. I like that. We're heading into the busy time, but I like that kind of feedback. But the easiest thing to do is sign up for a lawn sign, and we'll deliver it.
Nice. We'll come to you and just
Put it in your yard.
yeah, that's
Well,
great.
that's awesome.
Okay. I'm doing my classic ones from memory, so I'm trying.
Okay.
And I'm not doing all of them. I don't know if I'll do them all,
Are
but
you gonna ask about peanut butter?
sure, yeah.
Oh, fun
Yeah.
For
question.
fun. No, these
Good.
are
I like
fun.
fun questions,
Let's say
especially on a Friday.
Andy
yeah.
has good ones.
Let's
Yeah.
say you're parking somewhere like in a normal painted lines parking spot, not like on the street parallel or anything. Do you normally pull in or do you back in your car?
I back in.
Okay.
I
Me
back
too.
in. I it is a smaller town thing that if I pull in, I'll go up over the curve sometimes, and that's when I first moved to Portland, I learned that was a no.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, do you like crunchy or smooth peanut butter, or maybe you don't like peanut butter?
I like smooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
You like the oil kind or the stir or the no stir kind?
Well, there's what I should like, and there's what I actually like. I
Right.
should like the
Sure.
oil kind, but I love the no oil kind,
Yeah.
the Jif.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Uh,
tastiest.
let's say you're getting ice cream somewhere. Do you go waffle cone, regular cone, cup?
Oh, regular cone.
Okay. Sugar.
Even my actual favorite is the soft serve
Oh, yeah.
white cones.
Huh.
Those are my
Okay.
favorite because the ice cream sort of melts into them.
That's true.
And it's
It
like
doesn't drip down the sides as much.
it's like and it tastes.
And is that I always ask, what flavor are you putting in there? Some kind of soft serve?
I like soft serve ice cream better than any other ice cream, and I prefer the vanilla chocolate swirl.
Swirl, a classic.
Yeah.
I used to work, one of my first jobs was at a buffet, and I remember One night that thing got left on, and so there's
Oh my
like
gosh. Oh
soft serve.
That would be a disaster. Somebody stained the carpet. I
Yeah.
wonder who left it on.
It wasn't me, I
At
promise.
some
it
point, it
wasn't.
runs out, though, does it not?
Yeah,
I mean,
something-
it just stops.
And there's
After
just
a big
pile of-
puddle.
Certainly, yeah.
Do you have a favorite type of French fry? Do you like regular fry or regular cut?
Tater tots.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Sam, thank you so much for saying that, because I get crap all the time for people telling me that is not a French fry, and I say it is a French fry.
It is a potato fry. It is
Exactly.
It is an Idaho fry. It tastes so much better than, although there are some good French fries out there. It's Portland, so we got lots of
We
good,
do,
good
but
options.
they're-
But tater tots,
Yeah.
McMenamins has
I
great
know
tots.
They,
They
get shouted
do
out
have
for
They
great
have
tots.
the best
Yeah.
tots.
yeah, McMenamins tater tots. Here, put me on TV.
Do you feel like tater tots are a French fry?
I love tater tots, but I
Are they in the
don't
fry
feel
family?
like they are because they're always separate on the
See?
menu.
See what I'm
Because
saying?
I have kids, and so that's all they want to do is get things like tater tots and fries, but they are separate.
Okay.
So there's a lot of turning that
Well, in that
menu
case,
over.
I like the waffle fries.
Yeah, I like waffle fries, too.
I like everything pretty crunchy and
Okay.
lots of salt.
Where do you go for waffle fries?
You go to where was I? They just had them, and I had them. I'll think of it and get back
Okay,
to you
I'm
before
excited
this
to hear.
interview
Yeah.
is
I might end
over.
up there tonight.
I'm trying to think of some of my other classic ones. Otherwise, I'll go to. I've been asking people. First of all, I got pushback on this the other day because you could be allergic. Are you allergic to nuts or
No.
Okay. I've been asking people
Oh,
what.
somebody gave you pushback because of allergies?
Well, they were saying, what if somebody comes in here and they're allergic?
Oh, Take Two on Killingsworth and 30th.
Is that what it's called? Take
Take
two.
two.
Okay.
Okay.
Take Two now?
I'll have to check
Thank
out their
you.
waffle fries. Yeah.
They have really good waffle fries.
Um,
Put me on TV. Take Two.
I've been asking people, what are your nut rankings? And I'll tell you mine: pistachio, peanut, cashew are my top 3.
I thought we decided cashews or seeds.
I know, but I'm like keeping them in.
I would
Okay,
say
well,
the
it's your show.
smoky almonds.
Oh,
Love
those are
Number
great.
one.
So good.
I'm convinced they're cancerous, but I still love them.
Oh, Blue Diamond, those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you
That's
get
the
a
best gas station
how do you get an
snack.
almond to taste so
Oh
smoky
boy.
Yeah.
naturally?
It's a good
You
question.
probably don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Some kind of fake flavor.
I would say after that, it is the dried salted peanuts.
Mhm.
Isn't that what they're like baked or
Yeah.
dried? Yeah,
Or roasted or whatever.
roasted. Thank
Mhm.
you, roasted. And then number 3 is probably
I love all the detail and specificity in your answers.
uh,
Dried and roasted.
dried
Yeah.
and roasted. And number 3 is probably pumpkin seeds.
Okay.
Oh, that's not a nut.
That's okay though. Because
That's okay. Cashews are in the
that's
mix.
usually where I go with that conversation next. Is like I start thinking about ranking seeds, and pumpkin seeds are in there, and
I like
I
the
like
seasoned
sunflower
pumpkin
better.
seed.
Oh, you do? You like the seasoned-
Sunflowers, yeah, I think of sunflowers as a nut too, but I guess they're
Gosh, I love
seeds.
sunflowers.
Yeah, I like sunflower to be number 4.
okay.
Yeah.
I ask this sometimes: if you were forced to run a gigantic company or brand, is there one you would pick?
Wow,
Like Nike or
good
something there.
question. If I was forced to run one,
And some people, if they can't think of one, have said, "Hey,
I would
the
say
county is," or
I would say Apple,
okay, yeah, I like it.
just because um, it's
It's pretty untarnished as a
People
company.
love it
like,
so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
It's like Disney or something. Yeah.
And I think as a company, they have one of the largest like money in the bank type of things.
it's
Like,
true. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
But
Is there any other one?
if the test to become CEO of Apple was complete, domination over my iPhone, then I probably
wallet,
wouldn't pass because it still flummoxes me sometimes.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, I'll ask this last one. Do you have a favorite fair ride or like Disneyland ride or something like that?
Oh,
Some people have pointed to Oaks Park rides.
as a kid growing up, I loved the Scrambler.
Oh, I know what the
Which
scramble.
is-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It looks
the
like an
mix-
egg beater.
mixer
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
Mhm. And then it goes up in the air. And
That one kind of makes me sick a little bit.
really.
Yeah, you want to do that before you eat a lot of cotton candy.
Okay.
I learned that the hard way with my sister once.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, we kind of already plugged your stuff, but thanks so much for coming
Thank
today.
you.
Oh, my
I
pleasure.
It
What a
was,
was
great
so
conversation.
fun.
yeah,
You
like
guys are
I
really great interviewers.
legitimately, like I was saying, this is, I don't know. As a
Wow.
candidate, I've never been more impressed. I've just
Well,
It's been
what you're
thank you.
bringing.
amazing.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. Right back at you for conversation and questions.
yeah, yeah. And you're always welcome back
I'll
anytime.
take you up on that.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Sam. Yeah.
Thank you.